One thing this Eurovision controversy is showing is that Europe is not a continent. It's literally not a continent. Europe is a political project. The only reason we call Europe a continent is because Europeans designated itself as so. Europe is on the same continental plate as Asia. That's why it's called actually supposed to be called Eurasia. So that's why states like Israel and Australia are allowed to be a part of Eurovision because they're simply extensions of Europe. I think Australia is still a part of the Commonwealth. They're also still white extensions. Because Europe didn't form out of a solidarity of culture and language and ties, it formed out of the political concept of Europe, formed out of whiteness. When Europe needed to distinguish itself from the rest of the world, they had to find some type of unifying factor because they didn't have language, they didn't have religion. They've been at war forever. There is like, and this is something that people talk about, like, oh, the Africans and Asians and the Native Americans never got their stuff together long enough because they were always at war together with each other, but they never got together like Europe did. Europe was constantly at war with itself. We just had World War II. It's not too long ago. And then they just start wars everywhere else. After World War II, they mostly moved their wars to other places, and that's just not including Eastern Europe. So with the unifying factor of whiteness, they were able to not necessarily build solidarity with each other, but were able to distinguish themselves from other people. Because when you're doing stuff like colonization, when you're doing stuff like slavery, you need to have a reason why it's okay to do it to these people, but not to those people. So again, at one point it was religion. So Protestants, Catholics, pagans, Jewish people, all of these things were like little factors that made them separate and again made them go to war with each other. But when they had the unifying idea of whiteness, boom, no reason to, we can still go to war over the other stuff, but that gives us a really good excuse to enslave those Africans, and then now we can label them black. That is not to say this is the first time they like named people. They looked at them and said, oh, you look black. That is to say they created the concept of blackness. And the concept of blackness was actually created in multiple parts of the world. So we have blackness in India, blackness in Australia, blackness in Melanesia, blackness in the Americas. Because once you were able to label someone as black, the opposite of whiteness, you were able to treat them like garbage. This is also why people in Europe, the white supremacists, are freaking out about Europe being lost, because it's not about the continent, and it's honestly not even about the cultures, because again, there are so many different cultures that Europeans themselves have destroyed within Europe. Most of these countries did not speak the same language up until there was like a unification point, which absolutely erased and decimated local cultures and languages. So these black and brown people coming to Europe does not destroy Europe as a continent, as anything that is like an actual material thing to be worried about. It's not like a pollution thing. It is literally the loss of whiteness in Europe is what they're complaining about. And before someone comes on here and say Jewish people aren't white as a rebuttal to this because of Israel, that has not always been the case. It still is not a blanket case at all. First of all, Jewish people are multiple races of people. And then white Jewish people have been able to move in and out of these systems, even though they also have faced anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism within itself does not necessarily remove whiteness. It does have some religious aspects, it does have racial aspects, but it has not completely removed whiteness. Jewish people were also a part of the colonization process.